I've been waiting for my husband to lie to me. Tonight, he finally did. The records are sealed. Superior Court of Connecticut. Violence documented, then buried. His violence. His first wife. His past. But the past doesn't stay buried. Not when you know where to dig. He said he was visiting Marcus. Family. Support. A reasonable husband being reasonable. But Marcus hasn't seen him. Marcus isn't where Derek said he'd be, which means Derek isn't where he said he'd be. I should be crying. A wife discovering her husband's deception. That's the script. But I stopped following scripts 10 months ago, the day I started planning. I reach for the other phone, the one he doesn't know exists. The one with only one name. Victor. Derek thinks he's keeping secrets. He doesn't know I've been keeping bigger ones. The war started months ago. He just doesn't know he's already losing. In the next 2 hours, you'll discover who really held the knife that night, and why the monster you expect might not be the monster you find. Welcome to American Billionaire Tales. 48 hours after I watched my husband lie to my face, I sit in a law office that charges $900 an hour. The firm is called Chen & Associates, 16th floor, Midtown Manhattan. The kind of address that tells you, before you ever open your mouth, that your problems are expensive ones. Deborah Chen sits across from me. 52 years old, silver streaking through black hair cut in a precision bob. Reading glasses on a chain she doesn't need. They're armor, I've realized. Something to fidget with while clients fall apart. I'm not falling apart. I'm presenting. The conference table between us is covered. Financial records from the past 5 years, joint accounts, trust structures, Derek's Meridian equity projections, custody precedents from Connecticut Family Court, psychological evaluation templates. And in the center, untouched, a manila folder with a red seal, Superior Court of Connecticut, sealed by order of Judge Margaret Whitmore, case file, Price v. Duckstein, 2014. Deborah taps the folder with one manicured nail. These records will get you leverage in negotiation, significant leverage. But I need you to understand what happens if you take this public. I know what she's going to say. I've run the calculations 100 times. If Derek's history becomes part of the custody filing, if it leaks to investors, to press, you're not just divorcing him, Mira. She removes her glasses, looks at me directly. You're ending his company. I don't blink. His company, his choices. His children's trust funds are tied to that equity. Your children, the baby you're carrying. If Meridian's IPO collapses, those trusts lose 60% of their projected value. My hand drifts to my belly. 7 months. The baby kicks as if on cue, a small foot pressing against my palm, reminding me that everything I do now, I do in plural. That's his fault, I say, not mine. Deborah watches me. She's seen this before. Wives who enter this office as victims and leave as something else, something harder. She's trying to decide which kind I am. How long have you been preparing this? I could lie. Tell her the flight was the trigger, that I discovered his deception last week and moved swiftly because that's who I am. But Deborah is too smart for that, and I need her to trust me. 10 months. She doesn't react, doesn't write it down, just holds my gaze. 10 months ago, I started documenting his behavior, the way he controlled the finances, the way he questioned every purchase I made over $50, the way he... I stop, breathe. The way he stands in doorways. Stands in doorways? Like he owns every exit, like he's deciding whether to let me leave. Clicking, once. Deborah picks up a legal pad, begins to write. We can work with that. Emotional abuse is grounds, coercive control, but it's harder to prove than physical. He was physical. Not with me, with his first wife. I push the sealed folder toward her. My fingers brush the red stamp. 10 years ago, Janelle Price. They were married 18 months. He threw her against a kitchen island. She had contusions on her shoulder and hip. She was hospitalized overnight. She dropped the charges. Deborah opens the folder, scans the first page. Her expression doesn't change. She's too practiced for that. But I see her shoulders tighten. How did you obtain this? Legally. My brother-in-law works in the court system. He made an inquiry. I told him I was scared. Were you? I look at the folder, at the name Duckstein printed above the seal. I am scared. I've been scared for 3 years, since before we were married. Since the first time I saw him lose his temper and then control it, like a switch flipping, like he could choose when to stop. I meet her eyes. Men who choose to stop are men who could choose not to. Deborah closes the folder, sets it beside her notes. I'll review these tonight, but I want you to understand something, Mira. She leans forward. The woman in this file, Janelle Price, she said something in her statement, something the sealing order preserved but didn't erase. My heart stops. What? She called it a mutual altercation. She said she provoked the physical encounter. The details are redacted, but the phrase remains. I don't move. Mutual, I repeat. Mutual. Which means if Derek's legal team gets hold of this, and they will, they'll argue context. They'll say it was a fight, not abuse, that both parties were violent. He put her in the hospital. And she dropped the charges, voluntarily, without settlement. That complicates the narrative. I stare at the folder, at the word sealed. 10 months of preparation, 10 months of documentation, 10 months of collecting evidence for the war I knew was coming. And now Deborah is telling me the weapon might misfire. It doesn't matter who started it, I say finally. It matters how it ended, with her in a hospital bed and him walking free. Deborah nods slowly. That's one reading, but the court may have another. She stands, meeting over. I'll have a strategy memo for you by Friday. In the meantime, she pauses at the door. Make sure Derek doesn't know what's coming. The element of surprise is your best asset right now. I remain seated, looking at the documents, at the life I've built, reduced to papers and leverage and calculated risk. My hand rests on my belly again. The baby is still, waiting, like me, for whatever comes next. 6 months earlier. I need you to understand how it started. Not the discovery of his lie, that came later, but the moment I stopped pretending this marriage could be saved. It was March, 3 months pregnant. We hadn't told anyone yet. Derek wanted to wait until we were safe, past the risk of loss. I should have noticed his choice of words. Safe. As if the pregnancy were a negotiation, not a miracle. The nursery was half decorated. I'd started painting one wall, a soft sage green, gender neutral, hopeful. The crib was still in its box in the corner. A mobile of silver stars sat on the dresser, waiting to be hung. I was sitting on the floor, back against the unpainted wall, looking at color swatches, trying to feel something other than what I actually felt, which was trapped. My phone showed 11:47 p.m. Derek should have been asleep. He had an investor call at 7 a.m. He was always asleep by 11 before investor calls. But I heard his footsteps on the stairs, heavy, deliberate. He appeared in the doorway, and he didn't enter. He just stood there, silhouette filling the frame, his shoulder touching one side, his hand braced on the other. The hallway light behind him made his face unreadable, his body a wall. My heart began to beat faster. Not because he'd done anything, because of what he could do. Because the geometry of the room had suddenly shifted. He was between me and every exit. "You left the dishes in the sink." His voice was calm, almost bored. "Again." I didn't answer, couldn't answer. My throat had closed around something that might have been fear or might have been years of accumulated silence. "Mira." He said my name like punctuation. "I asked you to do one thing." I found my voice. "I was painting. I forgot." "You forgot." He repeated it. Not a question, a judgment. "I'll do them now." I started to stand. My back ached. 3 months of pregnancy had made everything harder. Standing, sleeping, pretending. "Don't bother. I already did them." He turned, walked away. I heard his footsteps descend the stairs, heard the bedroom door close, heard the lock click from inside. He'd locked me out of our bedroom because of dishes. And here's the thing I need you to understand. He never raised his voice. He never moved toward me. He never threatened or touched or explicitly frightened. He didn't have to. The way he filled that doorway, the way his calm was chosen, deliberately applied over something larger, something controlled but not absent. The way he said my name like he owned it. I'd grown up watching my father do the same things. I sat back down on the nursery floor, stared at the sage green wall I'd been so proud of, and I thought about my mother. She stayed. 18 years she stayed. Told herself it was for us, for me and my brother, that children needed a father, even a frightening one, that she could absorb enough of his anger to keep us safe. She was wrong. What we learned wasn't safety. It was that love looks like standing in doorways, that marriage means choosing silence, that women who speak up lose everything. I promised myself I'd never become her. And sitting in that nursery, 3 months pregnant, watching my husband's shadow recede down the hallway, I realized I already had. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue-white in the darkness, illuminating my face, reflecting in my tears. I typed, "Divorce attorney, Connecticut, high net worth." The results populated. Chen and Associates, established 1987, discretion guaranteed. I wrote down the number, tucked the paper into my jewelry box, beneath my grandmother's diamond studs, where Derek would never look. And then I stood, went to the kitchen, checked the dishes. He hadn't done them. They were still in the sink, exactly where I'd left them. He'd lied, to punish me, to make me feel small. I washed them anyway, one by one, in the dark kitchen of my beautiful prison. And I decided, not that night, not yet. But the decision was planted, a seed in soil he didn't know I was tending. 6 months later, I'd have a folder full of evidence, an attorney on retainer, a second phone with a single contact, and a husband who didn't know the war had already begun. Day 2 of Derek's absence. He thinks he's visiting his cousin Marcus. He thinks I believe him. He thinks the woman he married is still the woman who washes dishes in the dark and says nothing. He's wrong. The locksmith arrived at 9 a.m. A heavy man in a blue uniform, tool belt jangling, professionally disinterested in why a pregnant woman needed every lock in the house changed while her husband was traveling. "You want the same key for all of them?" he asked, already measuring the front door. Yes, and I need the old locks destroyed. Not discarded. Destroyed. He looked at me then. A flicker of something. Recognition, maybe, of a familiar story. But he just nodded. Yes, ma'am. I watched him work. Stood in my own foyer like a general surveying a battlefield, watching the first fortifications go up. The children were with the nanny in the playroom. I could hear Theo, 4 years old, already loud, laughing at something on the television. Lily, just 2, babbling in the half-language of toddlers. They didn't know their father was being erased from this house, one lock at a time. Maybe that was mercy. Maybe it was cruelty. I couldn't tell anymore. After the front door, the locksmith moved to the back, then the garage, then the side entrance I'd forgotten we had, the one Derek used when he came home late and didn't want to wake the children. Didn't want to wake the children. That's how I'd always read it. Now I wondered if it was just another form of control, another way of moving through the house, unseen, unaccountable. While the locksmith worked, I went upstairs. Derek's closet was larger than the bedroom I grew up in. Walk-in, climate-controlled, organized by color, by season, by occasion. His suits hung in garment bags, tissue paper between the folds. His shoes were stored in their original boxes, labeled and dated. The closet of a man who controlled everything. I started packing. Not with anger. I'd expected anger, hoped for it. Anger would have felt righteous. Instead, I felt something closer to surgery. Clinical precision. One suit, then another. His ties rolled carefully. His cufflinks in a velvet tray. I picked up his watch, the Omega Seamaster, his father's. The only thing Derek owned that had sentimental value. He wore it every day, touched it when he was anxious, checked it when he was bored with conversations. It was the closest thing to a tell he had. I held it for a moment, felt its weight, the sweep of the second hand measuring time neither of us could get back. Then I placed it in the box with everything else. The clothing went to his sister's house. I'd already called her. Marlene, 2 years older than Derek, perpetually disappointed in him, quietly thrilled to be involved in something scandalous. "Are you sure about this?" she'd asked, with the tone of someone hoping I was. "I'm sure." "I never liked how he talked to you at holidays." "I'll have the guest room ready." By 2 p.m., Derek's presence in the house had been reduced to photographs and the faint scent of his cologne in the master bathroom. I walked through the rooms. Living room, kitchen, his home office, looking for anything I'd missed. Anything that might give him a toehold when he returned. I photographed everything. The empty closet, the changed locks, the packed boxes. Sent them to an encrypted folder Deborah had created. Evidence. Chain of custody. Preparation. I was in the kitchen, reviewing the images when Lily found me. She appeared around the corner like a small ghost, blonde curls wild from napping, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in one arm. "Mama?" I crouched down, opened my arms. She ran into them, warm and smelling of baby shampoo and the particular sweetness of a child who hasn't learned yet that the world is hard. "Hey, baby girl." "Where, Daddy?" The question hit me like a physical thing. I felt it in my chest, the impossibility of explaining, the weight of what I was doing and why. I held her tighter. "Daddy's visiting a friend, sweetheart. He'll be back soon." It was the first lie I'd told my daughter, the first of many. I held her for a long time, felt her relax against me, felt the baby in my belly shift, as if making room for the moment. And I thought, this is what I'm fighting for. These children, their safety, their chance at a life where doorways are just doorways. But another voice, quieter and harder to ignore, asked, "What are you taking from them in the process?" "Ma'am, all finished." I set Lily down, wiped my eyes before she could see. "Go play with Theo, okay? Mama will be right there." She toddled off, innocent, unaware. I walked to the front door. The locksmith handed me a new set of keys, 3 of them, brass, freshly cut. They sat in my palm like a verdict. "These are the only copies?" "Yes, ma'am. No one else has a key to this house now." I closed my fist around them. Derek was still wherever he was. With Janelle, I now knew, though I didn't yet know why. He was still lying to me, still believing the lie would hold. But when he came home, he would find a house that no longer recognized him. The first strike of the war. Silent. Bloodless. And he didn't even know it had been made. Evening. Day 3 of the war Derek doesn't know he's fighting. I'm parked in a lot behind a Whole Foods in Stamford. Not our Whole Foods, the one 20 minutes further, in a town where no one knows my face. Where the Duckstein name means nothing. The second phone is warm in my hand. I've been holding it for 6 minutes, watching the screen, waiting for the courage to press his name. Victor. He answers before the second ring. He always does. Like he's been waiting too. "Mira." His voice does something to me. Even now, even in the middle of this, his voice reaches through the phone and finds something I thought Derek had killed. "I'm here." "Are you safe?" "I'm in a parking lot. The kids are with the nanny. Derek is—" I almost laugh. "Still wherever he is. I've been thinking about you all day." His voice drops lower, more intimate. "I kept looking at the conference room where we—" "Victor," I cut him off. Not harshly, just boundaries. "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I told Deborah about you, my attorney. She knows everything." Silence. 5 seconds. 10. "You told your divorce attorney about us?" "I had to. If this goes to court, if Derek finds out, she needs to know what he'll use against me." "What he'll use against you?" Victor's voice changes. The warmth recedes. Something harder edges in. "Mira, if this becomes public, the affair, you understand what that means?" I stare through the windshield. A woman is loading groceries into a minivan. Normal life. The kind I used to think I had. "I understand." "Do you?" "Because it's not just your reputation. It's mine. It's Meridian." And there it is. The calculation beneath the tenderness. I close my eyes. "Deborah says you might be called as a character witness against Derek." A character witness. He repeats it flatly. Someone who's seen his behavior, who can testify to his controlling nature, his temper. "I'm his co-founder, Mira. His best friend for 15 years. I've been in business with him since we were 25 years old. And you want me to testify against him?" "I want you to tell the truth." The truth. Victor laughs, but there's no humor in it. "The truth is, I've been sleeping with my partner's wife for 6 months. The truth is, I've watched you document his behavior while carrying his child. The truth is, I love you. And I also have $30 million in equity about to vest in 8 weeks when this company goes public." My hand tightens on the phone. "Which matters more to you?" "Don't do that. Don't make me choose." "I'm not making you choose. Derek made you choose. The moment he lied about where he was going, the moment he decided to visit his ex-wife instead of being honest with me." I take a breath. "I'm just asking where you stand." When Victor speaks again, his voice is quieter, defeated. "Mira, I love you. You have to know that." "I do." But that company is 15 years of my life. 200 employees, people with mortgages and families and retirement plans tied to Meridian stock. I know. If I testify against Derek, if this becomes public before the IPO, the underwriters walk. The valuation collapses. Everything we built. He trails off. I should feel angry, betrayed. Instead, I feel something colder. Clarity. And if you don't testify? If Derek gets custody? If he uses the affair against me in court? I would never let that. You wouldn't have a choice. Once it comes out that you were involved, his lawyers will subpoena you anyway. The only question is whose side you're on when you take the stand. Victor doesn't answer. Because there is no good answer. We both know it. I look at my reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back is exhausted. 7 months pregnant, alone in a parking lot, negotiating with a lover who may not choose her. I should go. Mira, wait. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. I'm asking you to think about what you're willing to sacrifice. I pause. Because I'm sacrificing everything. My marriage, my reputation, my children's image of their father. And I need to know if I'm doing it alone. I set the phone in my lap, stare at Victor's name on the screen. He loves me. I believe that. I have to believe it. But love and loyalty aren't the same thing. I learned that from Derek. The parking lot empties around me. One by one, the cars pull away. The streetlights flicker on, casting everything in yellow-orange sodium glow. I sit there until the lot is empty, until I'm the only one left. Alone. That's the truth Victor didn't want to say. When this is over, if it ever ends, I'll probably be alone. The lover who can't afford me, the husband who underestimated me, the children I'm doing this for, who may never understand. I start the car, pull out of the lot. The phone sits silent beside me. One contact, one name, one more person who might let me down. But not tonight. Tonight, I still have keys to a house that no longer recognizes Derek. Tonight, I still have the sealed file unopened on my desk. Tonight, I still have surprise on my side. That will have to be enough. Day 4. The house is chaos in the best way. Theo building towers and destroying them with monster truck sound effects. Lily dancing to something on the TV. The nanny trying to referee from the kitchen. Normal life. The performance of it, anyway. I'm on the living room floor with Lily, stacking blocks she immediately knocks down, when my phone rings. Not the second phone, the first one. The wife phone. The screen shows his face. A photo from 2 years ago, our anniversary dinner. Him laughing at something I said. We looked happy. Maybe we were. Derek, calling. I answer. Hi. Hey, you. His voice is warm. The voice he uses when he wants something, or when he wants me to think everything is fine. How are my babies? I watch Lily knock over another tower. Theo is pretending the monster truck can fly. They're good. Loud. Missing you. I miss them too. So much. How are you? The question lands like a test. How am I? I'm packing your belongings. I'm changing your locks. I'm building a case that might destroy your company and your relationship with your children. I'm fine. Tired. The baby's been kicking a lot. That's good. Active baby. Healthy. He sounds genuinely pleased, genuinely concerned. That's what makes him so hard to read. How's Marcus? The hesitation is tiny. Half a beat. If I weren't listening for it, I'd miss it entirely. He's Going through some stuff. That's why I came. Needed to be here for him. I write on the notepad, hesitation, deflecting. What kind of stuff? Just family things. His ex is giving him trouble about the kids. Custody stuff. He needed someone to talk to. Custody stuff. The irony is breathtaking. That's hard. I'm glad you could be there for him. Yeah, you know how it is. Family comes first. Family comes first. Lying about location. Does he believe his own words? I keep writing. When are you coming home? Couple more days. He's got a court date coming up. I want to make sure he's okay before I leave. Extending trip. Why? Okay, we'll be here. Mira. His voice shifts, softer, more deliberate. I love you. You know that, right? I look at the notepad, at the lies I've been cataloging, at the pen in my hand, the same hand wearing the ring he gave me. I know. I mean it. Whatever happens, you and the kids are everything to me. Everything. Derek. Yeah? Come home safe. I will. Kiss the kids for me. He hangs up. I sit on the floor of my living room, phone in one hand, notepad in the other. Around me, my children play, oblivious. The afternoon light is golden. The house is warm. The scene could be a catalog photograph of domestic happiness. I look at the notepad. Confirmed, not with Marcus. Lying about location, extending trip. Why? I love you. Control or genuine? This is what love looks like, dissected. Every word cataloged, every pause analyzed, the warmth translated into evidence. I don't know if he loves me. Maybe he does. Maybe love is what he tells himself while he controls everything around him. Maybe love and control are the same thing for men like Derek, indistinguishable, interchangeable. But I know he's lying. About Marcus. About where he is. About why he went. Somewhere, right now, my husband is with his ex-wife. The woman he hurt. The woman whose records are sealed in a folder on my desk. What is he telling her? What is he asking her for? What truth is he trying to bury before I can dig it up? Theo, play nice. I stand, mediate, perform the role of mother, of normalcy, of everything being fine. But the notepad stays on the coffee table, and the words I wrote stay in my mind. I love you. He said it like a question, like he needed me to confirm it. I didn't. Day 5, midnight. The children are asleep, have been for hours. I checked on them twice. Theo sprawled across his bed like a starfish, Lily curled around her rabbit, thumb halfway to her mouth. Safe, peaceful, unaware of the war being waged on their behalf. I'm in the home office, Derek's home office, technically. I'm supposed to call it the study, but that was before I changed the locks, before I packed his clothes, before the house became mine. The sealed folder sits on the desk. I've been avoiding it for days, carrying it between rooms like a talisman, knowing what's inside, not ready to look. Tonight, I'm ready. I open it. The first page is a police incident report. Date, March 14, 2014. Location, 47 Hollowbrook Drive, Westport, Connecticut. Responding officer, Lieutenant Patricia Delmore. I read. Upon arrival at the residence, I found the complainant, Ms. Janelle Price, age 26, in the kitchen. She was visibly distressed, holding ice to her left shoulder. Subject reported that her husband, Derek Duckstein, age 28, had become physical during an argument approximately 1 hour prior. Physical. Such a clean word for violence. Subject stated that Mr. Duckstein threw her against the kitchen island following an escalating verbal dispute. Medical examination later confirmed contusions to left shoulder and left hip, consistent with impact against a solid surface. My hand trembles. I press it flat against the desk to stop it. Mr. Duckstein was not present at the time of police arrival. Subject stated he had left the residence immediately following the incident. Subject declined to specify where he had gone. He ran. He hurt her, and he ran. Subject was transported to Norwalk Hospital for evaluation. She was treated for soft tissue injuries and released at 3:47 a.m. No broken bones. No broken bones. As if that's the threshold. As if that's what separates acceptable from unacceptable. I turn to the second document, hospital records. The clinical language is worse somehow. Contusions, abrasions. Pain scale, 6 out of 10. Patient declined overnight observation. Patient was counseled on resources for domestic situations. Domestic situations. Another clean phrase for something ugly. The third document is Janelle's statement to police, given 2 days after the incident. This is the one Deborah warned me about. Statement of Janelle Price, March 16, 2014. I, Janelle Price, wish to provide additional context to my report filed on March 14th. I do not wish to press charges against my husband, Derek Duckstein, at this time. I knew this part. She dropped the charges. That's why the file is sealed. No prosecution, no public record. Just this folder, preserved by court order, accessible only under specific circumstances. But the next paragraph stops me. I wish to clarify that the physical encounter on March 14th was, in my assessment, a mutual altercation. Prior to Derek's actions, I had become physically confrontational. I do not wish to elaborate on the specific nature of my actions, but I acknowledge that I provoked the encounter. Mutual altercation. Provoked the encounter. What does that mean? Did she hit him first? Push him? Throw something? Or is this what women say when they're scared, when they're trying to protect themselves from further escalation, when they think minimizing their victimhood will keep them safe? I've seen this before. I've done this before. Told doctors I walked into a door when my father's handprint was still red on my arm. Made excuses. Softened the truth. Is that what Janelle did? Or was there something more? I take pictures, every page. Send them to Deborah with a message. This is enough, right? But even as I send it, I know it's not enough. Not cleanly enough. I go back to the statement. Read the phrase again. I provoked the physical encounter. What did you do, Janelle? What are you hiding? I stare at the folder, at the evidence I've been waiting 10 months to wield, at the weapon I've sharpened in the dark. And for the first time, I feel something I didn't expect. Doubt. Not about Derek. He hurt her. The hospital records are clear. Whatever she did, he responded with violence. He threw her against a kitchen island hard enough to leave contusions. That's not mutual. That's disproportionate. But the doubt is there anyway. A crack in the certainty. It doesn't matter who started it. I say it out loud. To the empty room, to myself. It matters how it ended, with her in the hospital and him walking free. I close the file, set it aside. But the phrase lingers. Mutual altercation. What is Derek doing in Portland right now? What is he asking Janelle for? Is he begging her to keep quiet? Or is there something else? Something she has that changes the story? 2 a.m. He comes home tomorrow, or the day after, whenever he's finished with whatever he's doing. And when he does, he'll find a house that no longer welcomes him, a wife who no longer believes him, a war he didn't know had started. But maybe, just maybe, I don't have all the weapons I thought I did. The file stays closed on the desk. I don't sleep. Day 6, 11:07 p.m. I'm upstairs when I hear it. The sound of tires on our driveway, the sweep of headlights across the bedroom ceiling. He's home. I stand at the window, the same window where I watched the empty driveway for 6 days. Now, it's not empty. Now there's a black Tesla in the drive, and a man climbing the porch steps with a suitcase. My husband. I watch him reach for the door, watch his key slide into the lock, watch him try to turn it. He tries again. He steps back, looks at the door, looks at the lock. Understanding dawns slowly on his face, visible even from here, even in the porch light. New lock. His phone appears in his hand. The call comes through on mine seconds later. I answer. Mira, what the hell is going on? I don't move from the window. He looks up, sees my silhouette. Your things are at your sister's. I've filed for temporary separation. The children will stay with me pending custody evaluation. What? Mira. I know where you went, Derek. Silence. I know who you went to. And I know what you did to her 10 years ago. I watch his face change. Even from here, even through glass and distance and darkness, I see it. Not guilt. That's what I expected. The flush of shame, the darting eyes of a man caught. But that's not what I see. I see grief. Mira. His voice is quieter now, almost pleading. Let me in. We need to talk. You don't live here anymore. The kids are asleep, and they'll stay asleep. You can see them through the attorneys. Mira, please. Whatever you think you know. I know, Derek. I have the records. The police report. The hospital records. I know about the kitchen island. I know about the contusions. Those records are sealed. Were sealed. He stands on the porch of his own home, suitcase at his feet, phone in his hand, looking up at the window where his pregnant wife watches him like a stranger. Let me explain, please. There's more to it than you know. More to it. The phrase echoes what Janelle's statement said. Mutual altercation provoked the encounter. For a moment, just a moment, I want to know. I want to open the door and hear his version and understand what happened in that kitchen 10 years ago. But then I remember the nursery, the doorway, the way he said, "You left the dishes in the sink, again." Like my failures were weapons he was cataloging. You can explain to my attorney. I hang up. Watch him stand there. Watch him not move. He could break the door down. He could make a scene. He could call the police and claim I've locked him out of his own home. But he doesn't. He picks up his suitcase, walks back to the car, gets in. The headlights sweep across the ceiling again. Then darkness. He's gone. I stand at the window for a long time. He didn't deny it. When I said I knew what he did, he didn't deny it. He asked to explain, asked for context, asked for a chance. But he didn't say, I didn't hurt her. Because he did. Whatever the context, whatever Janelle provoked, he hurt her. And he's lived with that knowledge for 10 years, waiting for it to surface. Tonight, it surfaced. Tomorrow the attorneys will begin. The custody evaluations, the asset negotiations, the slow, grinding machinery of marriage dissolution. But tonight? Tonight, I won. So why does winning feel like this? The baby kicks. My hand goes to my belly automatically, the reflex of protection I've developed over these 7 months. It's okay, little one. It's okay. I don't know who I'm reassuring, the baby, myself, the silence. I close the curtain, turn away from the window. The war has begun, and I've already made my first kill. If your husband was violent once, 10 years ago, and has spent every day since trying to change, would you give him another chance? Or would you change the locks? Comment below. The morning after I exiled my husband, I made pancakes. I don't know why. Some instinct toward normalcy, maybe. The belief that if I could get the batter right, if I could flip each circle at the perfect moment, then everything else would somehow follow. The kitchen was bright. November's sun streaming through the windows I'd washed last week, when I was still pretending this house belonged to both of us. The children's artwork on the refrigerator. The magnetic letters spelling family that no one had rearranged in months. Theo was already at the table, monster truck in one hand, fork in the other, engaged in some elaborate scenario where breakfast was an obstacle course. Lily was in her high chair, methodically destroying a banana. And Amara was watching me. She's 8 years old, Derek's daughter from his first marriage, from Janelle. She visits every other week, a small ambassador from a kingdom I'd never fully understood. Usually she's bright, chattering, full of questions about everything. This morning, she was silent. I felt her eyes on my back as I flipped the pancakes, that particular weight of a child who knows more than she should. You want chocolate chips in yours, sweetheart? No, thank you. Her voice was small, careful, the voice of a child who's learned to read rooms. I brought her the pancakes, sat across from her. Theo was making engine noises. Lily was singing to her banana. The kitchen was chaos in the best way, except for the stillness at the center. Amara's stillness. Where's Dad? The question landed like a stone in water, ripples spreading. I'd prepared for this, rehearsed the words in the shower, in the car, in the dark hours before dawn. I had a script. He's staying somewhere else for a little while. Grown-up stuff. Nothing to do with you. Amara looked at her pancakes, didn't touch them. Is it because of what he did to my mom? Everything stopping. Froze, spatula in hand, batter dripping. What do you mean, sweetheart? Amara's eyes came up to meet mine. Gray-blue, like Janelle's in the photographs I'd seen in the sealed file. The same eyes that had witnessed something she was too young to understand and too old to forget. I heard them fight once. Before you. Before they got divorced. She pushed a piece of pancake with her fork, not eating, just moving. It was really loud. I was supposed to be asleep, but I wasn't. My heart was hammering. I set the spatula down carefully, deliberately, buying time. What did you hear? Crashing, like something breaking. Her voice dropped lower. And my mom crying. And then nothing. Like everything just stopped. And after? Dad came into my room. He didn't know I was awake. He sat on my bed for a really long time, and he said, she swallowed. 8 years old, carrying this. He said he was sorry, and he'd never do it again. He said that to you? While you were pretending to sleep? I don't think he was saying it to me. Amara looked up, and for a moment she looked so much older than 8, so much more tired. I think he was saying it to himself. I moved around the kitchen island, knelt beside her chair, The way you do with children when you need them to hear something important. My hand found hers. Amara, sweetheart, listen to me. She waited, patient, the way children who've learned to wait always are. Whatever happened before, between your dad and your mom, that's not your fault. It was never your fault. And it's not happening again. How do you know? Because I won't let it. Her small hand turned in mine, gripped back. Something passed between us, not quite trust, not quite understanding, something closer to recognition. Two women who'd loved the same man, who'd feared him in the same ways, who'd heard him apologize in the dark. Is that why he's staying somewhere else? Because you're scared too? The question hit me in the chest, a child's clarity, cutting through all my legal strategy and documented evidence and carefully constructed warfare. Because you're scared too. Yes, sweetheart. I'm scared too. Amara nodded, like that was enough, like fear was a language she already spoke fluently. Lily, shrieking with joy, the chaos resuming, she picked up her fork, started eating. The conversation was over. But I stayed on my knees for a moment longer, looking at this child who'd just confirmed everything I'd suspected and added a dimension I hadn't considered. Derek had apologized before, to himself, in the dark, thinking no one could hear. He knew what he was. He'd known for 10 years. And he'd married me anyway. I stood, returned to the stove, flipped pancakes that were now slightly burned. The doubt I'd felt last night, the mutual altercation, the complexity Deborah had warned me about, it receded. Not gone, but smaller. Because whatever Janelle had done, whatever context existed, Derek knew. He'd apologized to an empty room because he couldn't face what he'd become. And now, a decade later, here we were. Different wife, same fear. Would you stay if your child told you this? Would you believe in change that happened in therapy and silence? Or would you look at your daughter's eyes and see the cost of forgetting? I watched Amara eat her pancakes, watched Theo crash his truck, watched Lily murder her banana. My children, his children. The children caught in the middle of a war they didn't start. I made my choice 10 months ago. This morning, Amara confirmed I made the right one. But the cost. God, the cost of being right. I wasn't in the room when Derek planned his defense, but I can imagine it. I know the office, I know the man, and I know my husband well enough to picture what happened next. Marcus Webb's law firm occupies 3 floors of a brownstone on Chapel Street, the kind of building where the elevator is manually operated and the receptionist calls you sir without irony. Old Connecticut money. The Webbs have been practicing family law here since 1943. Derek would have arrived early. He's always early when he's anxious, as if punctuality could substitute for control. The office itself is a museum of masculine authority. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs that smell of decades, portraits of Webb partners going back 4 generations, each one white, each one confident, each one absolutely certain of his place in the world. Marcus Webb III sits behind a desk larger than my first apartment. He's 61 years old, silver hair swept back from a permanent tan, sailing, probably, golf. The recreation of men who've never worried about a bill. He wears a 3-piece suit in navy, a Yale-class ring on his right hand, and the expression of someone who's heard every ugly story and no longer flinches. Derek. The way he says the name, collegial but careful. Client, not friend, even if they've shared dinners. Tell me everything. And Derek does. I imagine him sitting in one of those leather chairs, his father's watch on his wrist, the tell he doesn't know he has. I imagine him running his hand through his hair the way he does when he's cornered. I imagine his jaw set, his voice controlled, the careful performance of a man who's spent 10 years learning to contain himself. She has the sealed records. I don't know how she got them, but she has them. Records can be contextualized. What else? She knows I went to see Janelle. The ex-wife, the one from the incident? Yes. Why the hell would you do that? Preparing to say what he's never said aloud. Because Janelle has a video. From that night. I can see Marcus leaning forward, the predator instinct of a man who's won cases for 40 years by finding the evidence others overlooked. A video. Her phone was recording. She'd started filming arguments, documentation, I guess, evidence of her own in case she needed it. Derek's voice would drop here, quieter, the memory surfacing. That night, she forgot to turn it off. The phone was on the kitchen counter. It recorded everything. And what does everything show? It shows her attacking me first. She threw a glass. Then she grabbed a knife from the block. I told her to put it down. She didn't. She came at me. And He would stop here, swallow. I reacted. Badly. I grabbed her arm, twisted the knife away. She fell, hit the island. The video ends there. The phone battery died, or she knocked it over, I don't know. But it shows enough. It shows she initiated. Marcus would be calculating, running the numbers only lawyers can run. Then why bury it for 10 years? If you have exculpatory evidence. Because using it would have destroyed her. The silence in that room must have been absolute. Janelle was unwell. We both were. The marriage was toxic, mutually toxic. But she was worse. Depression, paranoia. The knife wasn't... She wasn't trying to kill me. She was having a breakdown. Derek's voice would crack here, just slightly. If I used that video to defend myself, it would follow her forever. She'd be the crazy ex-wife who attacked her husband. Every custody hearing, every job application, every relationship she tried to have after me, it would be there. So you buried it. I buried it. Took the sealed record. Did my time in therapy. Let her heal. I thought I'd never need it. And now? Now, my current wife has a sealed DV record and doesn't know the context. She's built a case around me being a monster. Derek's voice hardens. She doesn't want explanation. She wants a weapon. Marcus would nod slowly. The calculation complete. The video changes things. It won't exonerate you. You still responded with disproportionate force. But it shifts the narrative from abuser to two people who failed each other. Is that enough? For custody? In family court, context matters. A decade of therapy, no incidents since, video evidence of mutual combat? Marcus would pause. It's not a guarantee, but it's a defense. I wasn't in that room. I can only imagine it. But here's what I know. While I was kneeling in my kitchen, holding Amara's hand, confirming my narrative of the monster I married, Derek was in that office, revealing a truth I hadn't considered. That he'd protected her. The woman he hurt. For 10 years, he'd protected her reputation at the cost of his own. Does that change what he did? Does protecting someone afterward erase the violence itself? Would you believe him if you were me? Would you see the buried video as evidence of growth or as a weapon he'd been saving? Cello note, held 4 seconds. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I know this. The war I started was simpler in my head. Good versus evil. Victim versus abuser. The war that's actually happening is something else entirely. $42 million. That's the gap between Victor's current net worth and what he'll have if the IPO closes on schedule. I learned this later, pieced it together from documents and depositions and the particular way money moves through stories like ours. But when Victor sat down for the final investor roadshow call, when he looked at those faces on screens and lied smoothly about personal matters, he was thinking about 42 million reasons to keep Derek's disaster contained. The Meridian FinTech boardroom is everything the Webb law office isn't. Glass and exposed brick, screens everywhere. The performative casualness of startup wealth. No ties, expensive sneakers, cold brew on tap. Victor sits at the head of the table, the CEO position. The chair that should feel like victory after 15 years of building. Today, it feels like a witness stand. We're hearing rumors about domestic issues with your co-founder. The investor, Geneva-based, private equity, no patience for mess. What's the exposure? Victor doesn't flinch. I'll give him that. Whatever else he is, whatever he's done with me, for me, to me, he knows how to perform. Derek is handling a personal matter. It won't affect the filing timeline. A personal matter. The investor's tone flattens. We've invested in the team, Victor. If one half of that team is about to become a liability, Derek's situation is private and unrelated to company operations. Our CFO and General Counsel have both confirmed continuity. The IPO proceeds as scheduled. And if something surfaces? During the quiet period? After filing? Victor's jaw tightens. Barely visible, but I know his face well enough to see it. Nothing will surface. I'll make sure of it. The screens go dark. Victor is alone. He looks at his phone. The screen illuminates his face, and I know without seeing whose name appears. Not mine. Derek's. 20 minutes later, Victor is at Derek's temporary apartment, the sisters' guest suite, comfortable enough, but with the impermanence of borrowed space, a man between lives. Derek opens the door. He looks worse than Victor expected. Unshaven, dressed in yesterday's clothes. The controlled CEO replaced by something rawer. They don't sit. They stand in the living room like boxers before a fight, measuring distances. Victor, thanks for coming. You have 10 minutes. I have. A board meeting at 3. Derek nods, accepts the terms. I need you to stall the IPO. 2 weeks, just until I can resolve the custody situation. Victor's face. I can imagine it. The calculation he's been running since I first told him about the sealed records. The numbers that never quite add up to a solution that saves everyone. If I stall, we lose the window. The underwriters have other deals. The market conditions won't hold. I know. 15 years, Derek. Victor's voice rises slightly. 15 years of 80-hour weeks, and burning through our 20s, and missing every holiday, and I know what we sacrificed. Do you? Because right now, it feels like you're asking me to throw it away because your marriage is falling apart. Derek runs his hand through his hair. The tell. The one he doesn't know he has. If Mira releases those records before the IPO closes, the underwriters run anyway. You know that. One headline: Tech CEO accused of domestic violence, and it's over. Everything we built. Victor looks away, toward the window, toward the city beyond. She has more than records, doesn't she? Derek doesn't answer immediately. When he does, his voice is flat. She has documentation, months of it. The way I talked to her, the way I controlled things. I didn't realize how it looked, until now. Is any of it true? It's interpretable. I was demanding, particular, the kind of husband my father was. Derek exhales. But I never touched her, never raised my hand, never raised my voice. That's not what she's saying. No, it's not. Victor turns back to Derek, his best friend, his business partner, the man whose wife he's been sleeping with for 6 months. I'll buy you a week. 1 week. The underwriters can push to the 23rd if I massage the timeline. Thank you. Don't thank me. 1 week means you either resolve this or we file anyway with whatever shitstorm is happening. Either way, the IPO closes. Derek nods, understanding the math, the $42 million sitting between friendship and fortune. There's something else. What? Derek hesitates, the first time Victor has ever seen him hesitate about anything. Mira has someone. I don't know who, but she has someone helping her, someone close. Victor doesn't move, doesn't blink, years of poker faces saving him. What makes you think that? The way she moved, the timing. Someone's been advising her, telling her when to act, what to document. Derek looks at Victor, searches his face. If I find out who it is, it changes everything. I imagine Victor's heart in that moment, the calculation becoming more complicated, the lies multiplying. Focus on the custody. Find whoever's helping her later. Derek nods, accepts the redirect. But the suspicion is planted, and Victor knows, standing in that borrowed living room, that the clock he's racing isn't just the IPO. It's the clock until Derek discovers the truth. 1 week. To save the company, manage Mira, and stay invisible. $42 million. Would you lie for that much? Would you betray everyone, best friend, lover, yourself, for a number you could retire on? I don't know Victor's answer. I'm not sure he does either. Victor's apartment is in Soho, 12th floor, the kind of building where the doorman knows your name and your secrets in equal measure. I've been here 11 times. I counted once in the early months when counting felt like proof that this was real, proof that someone wanted me without conditions. Tonight makes 12. He gave me a key in September, for emergencies, he said. But the way he said it meant something else. Meant, you belong here. This is yours, too. I use it now because he didn't answer when I called. 3 times. 3 calls going to voicemail while the IPO clock ticks and Derek strategizes, and my leverage weakens by the hour. The apartment is dark. Not empty, I can hear him moving in the bedroom, but dark, like a man who doesn't want to be found. I turn on the living room lamp. The space reveals itself, floor-to-ceiling windows, the city glittering beyond. Minimalist furniture in grays and navy, a Basquiat print on the wall. Everything curated, controlled, beautiful, like him. Victor appears in the doorway, silhouette first, then details, bare feet, dress pants, white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He's been drinking. I can see the whiskey glass in his hand, the slight looseness in his posture. You didn't answer. I know. 3 times, Victor. I know. He doesn't move toward me, doesn't smile, doesn't offer the warmth I've come to rely on. Something has shifted. We need to talk about the affidavit. Victor's jaw tightens. He crosses to the window, back to me, looking out at the city. I figured that's why you're here. Deborah says your testimony could be decisive. A character witness who's known Derek for 15 years, who's seen how he operates, how he controls, how he what, Mira? Victor turns. The city lights behind him make his face unreadable. How he built a company from nothing? How he worked 100-hour weeks to give his family everything? How he made me afraid to walk into rooms he was already in. Victor sets down his glass, walks toward me, stops 3 feet away, close enough to touch, far enough to mean distance. You want me to destroy my best friend's reputation. On the record. Under oath. I want you to tell the truth. The truth. He laughs, but there's nothing funny in it. The truth is complicated, Mira. The truth is that Derek is difficult and demanding and sometimes cruel. And also that he built Meridian from a business plan on a napkin into a $75 million company. The truth is that I've watched him be a controlling husband. And also that I've been sleeping with his wife for 6 months while helping her build a case against him. I feel it then, the ground shifting. What are you saying? I'm saying I can't testify. If I sign that affidavit, I become part of the official record. And once I'm part of the record, everything comes out. The affair, the timing, the fact that you've been planning this for almost a year while I... He stops, swallows. While you, what? While I fell in love with you. Love. The word lands between us like something breakable. Victor, I love you. I do. But if I sign that affidavit and it becomes public, the IPO is dead. 200 jobs, Mira. 15 years. And your children's trusts, those trusts are his leverage. He structured them that way so I could never leave. Or, Victor's voice sharpens, or he structured them to protect his children. Not everything is a trap. Not everything is about control. The words hit me somewhere unexpected. A place I'd walled off months ago when I decided what kind of man Derek was and built my case around that certainty. You think I'm wrong. I think you're scared. And I think scared people see threats everywhere. He reaches for my hand. I step back. Mira, please. You think I'm wrong about him. I think there are things you don't know. About that night. About Janelle. About why he went to see her. Or is it the pulse in my own ears? What don't I know? Victor hesitates. The moment stretches. Ask him yourself. When you're ready to hear answers instead of confirmations. I stare at him. This man I've trusted. This man I've loved, or thought I loved. This man who was supposed to choose me. I gave you 6 months. I'm giving you 1 week. Sign the affidavit or don't. But if you don't, if I don't, then I know where I stand. With him, with you, with all of it. I leave before he can respond, before he can reach for me again, before I can see whether his face shows relief or regret. To silence. The elevator descends. 12 floors of silence. I think about what he said. Not everything is a trap. Not everything is about control. But what if I'm wrong? What if the story I've been telling myself for 10 months, the story of the monster and the escape, is simpler than the truth? Would you question yourself at this point? With the locks changed and the attorneys engaged and the children already absorbing the shock? Or would you push forward, because stopping now means admitting you might have destroyed something that didn't deserve destroying. The elevator opens. The lobby is empty. The doorman nods. I walk into the night. Victor hasn't said no, but he hasn't said yes either. And in the silence between them, I hear something I don't want to hear. Doubt. 3,000 miles from Connecticut, a woman watches the rain. I never met Janelle Price. I've only seen her in photographs, the ones in the sealed file, the ones from Derek's first wedding, the ones that made her seem like a ghost, a cautionary tale, the woman before me. But she's not a ghost. She's not a tale. She's real, and she holds everything. Her apartment is in Portland, not the gentrified downtown, somewhere quieter. A building with character, brick walls, large windows that fog with the weather. She's filled it with plants, ferns on the windowsills, a monstera in the corner, succulents on every flat surface. Green things, growing things, life after wreckage. She sits in a reading chair, a cup of tea cooling beside her, and watches the gray sky weep onto the streets below. Janelle Price is 36 years old. Heart-shaped face, light auburn hair she stopped dyeing dark 5 years ago. Gray-blue eyes that look like the rain outside. A woman who spent a decade rebuilding herself far from the man who broke her. Far from the man she helped break. The screen shows Derek's name. She hesitates, not long, just a breath, then answers. His face appears. He looks worse than she's ever seen him. Unshaven, exhausted, desperate. The controlled man she married has been stripped down to something raw. Did you send it? Her voice is calm. She's practiced calm. The video? It's on a drive, express shipped. You'll have it by tomorrow morning. Thank you. I know you didn't have to. Stop. The word cuts him off. Quiet, but absolute. I'm not doing this for you, Derek. She sets down her tea, looks directly at the camera, at him. I'm doing this because I'm tired of being a ghost in your story. That night was complicated. What happened in that kitchen, it wasn't simple. It wasn't just you hurting me. It was both of us, destroying each other, too far gone to stop. Derek's face on the screen, the guilt that never quite goes away. I know. Do you? Because for 10 years, you've been carrying this narrative. The man who hit his wife, the monster who sought redemption. And I've been the silent victim you protected by burying the truth. Janelle, I had a knife, Derek. I threw a glass at your head. I was having a breakdown, paranoid, convinced you were cheating, convinced everyone was lying to me. I wasn't a victim. I was a participant. And you buried the video to protect me, to keep me from being the crazy wife forever. Yes, and I've resented you for it. Every single day for 10 years. Derek's face shifts. Confusion. Pain. You resented me for protecting you? I resented you for deciding what I needed, for choosing my narrative without asking, for turning me into a ghost instead of letting me be a complicated person who did a terrible thing and survived it. You made me a victim, and I was never just that. Derek is silent on the screen, processing. I'm sorry. I know you are. You've been sorry for 10 years. Janelle's voice softens, not forgiveness, but something close. Understanding. But sorry doesn't undo what we did. To each other. To ourselves. The video goes to you tomorrow. What you do with it, that's your choice. But if you use it, the world sees both of us, the knife and the shove. the glass and the bruises. Two people who failed each other completely. Is that the story you want to tell? Derek's voice, finally. I want to keep my children. Then tell the truth. All of it. Not the version that makes you a monster or a saint. The version that makes you human. Janelle sets her phone down. Returns to the window. Returns to the rain. I imagine her sitting there, in the quiet of her rebuilt life. The man who hurt her and the woman she was that night, both of them finally visible after a decade in shadow. She's not sending the video to save Derek. She's not sending it to destroy him. She's sending it to be seen. To stop being the ghost. To exist as herself, complicated, culpable, human. Would you send it in her place? Would you release the proof of your worst moment to free yourself from someone else's narrative? The rain keeps falling. Portland doesn't know that 3,000 miles away, a woman is waiting for evidence. A man is praying for exoneration. A marriage is collapsing. And a ghost is finally becoming real. The drive arrives at 9:47 a.m. Derek's sister accepts it at the door, a small padded envelope, no return address, just his name in Janelle's handwriting. She brings it to the guest room where her brother has barely slept for 6 nights. He holds it for a long time before opening it. I can imagine him sitting on the edge of the bed, the envelope in his hands, staring at his name in the handwriting of the woman he almost destroyed. The woman who almost destroyed him. The drive is small, unremarkable, the kind you buy at any office supply store. It contains 10 years of buried truth. He plugs it into his laptop, opens the single file. And the kitchen from March 14th, 2014 appears on his screen. I can only imagine what he sees, what he hears. The night that ended his first marriage and began his second penance. The footage is chaotic, shaky, a phone propped on the counter, filming an argument no one meant to record. Janelle's voice first, high and desperate. If you ever talk to her again, I swear. Derek's voice, tighter, trying to control. I told you, there's nothing going on. You're imagining. I'm not imagining it! She threw it. I don't know what, a tumbler maybe, or a wine glass? Something that exploded against the wall behind him. Then, movement. Her moving toward the counter, toward the knife block. Derek's voice changes. Fear now, not anger. Janelle, put it down. Put the knife down. Why should I? Why should I believe anything you say? The footage becomes harder to follow. Shapes moving, sound distorting, both of them in motion. Then, contact. Something hitting something. A scream, hers. And then, silence. The kitchen at 11:43 p.m. on March 14th, 2014. 10 seconds of chaos that could have been murder. 10 seconds that changed everything. Derek sits with what he's seen. What he already knew but hadn't watched in a decade. I imagine his hands shaking. I imagine his father's watch ticking on his wrist, the tell he doesn't know he has. I imagine him picking up his phone and calling Marcus Webb. It's not clean, but it shows she came at me first. There's a knife in frame. Marcus's voice through the speaker. Tell me exactly what I'm looking at. She threw a glass, then she grabbed a knife. I told her to put it down. You can hear me saying it. She came at me. I grabbed her arm, twisted the knife away. She fell, hit the island. The video ends there. Battery died or she knocked it over, I don't know. But it shows enough. It shows mutual combat. That's what I can argue. Two people in crisis, not premeditated abuse, a fight that escalated beyond control. Is that enough? For custody? It won't exonerate you. You still responded with disproportionate force. You're bigger, stronger. You could have walked away. The fact that she initiated doesn't erase what you did, but it changes the story. From monster to mistake. From abuser to someone who failed in a terrible moment and spent 10 years trying to become someone else. Derek's voice. Is that who I am? Someone who made a mistake? That's who the video shows. Whether it's true, Marcus pauses. That's between you and whatever God you believe in. Derek sits in the borrowed room. The laptop closed. The drive still inserted. 10 years of therapy. 10 years of control. 10 years of promising himself he'd never be that man again. And now the proof of who he was, and who he might still be, sits in a file on his desktop. The video doesn't make him innocent. It makes him complicated. And in the war Mira has started, complicated might be just as dangerous as guilty. The midpoint. The moment everything shifts. I didn't know it yet, in my house with my children and my certainty. I was still the woman with the sealed records, the strategic wife, the victim who'd become a warrior. I didn't know that 3,000 miles away, a ghost had spoken, and the weapon I'd spent 10 months sharpening had just grown dull. Would you still fight if you learned your enemy was also a victim? Would you still swing the sword if you saw the blood already on his hands, some of it his own? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out. The call comes at 2:17 p.m. I'm in the kitchen, wiping down counters that don't need wiping, when Deborah Chen's name appears on my screen. She never calls without scheduling. Deborah is precise about time. Hers costs $900 an hour, and she respects the currency. An unscheduled call means something has changed. Mira, are you somewhere you can talk? I look at the kitchen. Empty now, children napping, nanny in the living room with headphones, the battlefield temporarily quiet. I'm here. What is it? Derek's counsel just submitted new evidence, filed it with the court an hour ago. My hand finds the counter edge, steadies. What kind of evidence? A video, from the night of the incident with Janelle Price. There's a video. There's a video. Deborah's voice is careful, the voice she uses when delivering difficult truths. Derek's attorney is claiming it shows his ex-wife attacking him first, that there was a knife involved, that he responded excessively, but reactively. The kitchen suddenly feels smaller, the walls closer. A knife. The footage apparently shows her grabbing a knife from the block, coming toward him, his voice telling her to put it down. Then the struggle, then the fall. I close my eyes. 10 months of preparation. 10 months of documenting and photographing and building a case brick by careful brick. 10 months of the sealed record sitting on my desk like a loaded weapon, waiting for the moment I'd need to fire. And now, that doesn't change what he did. No, it doesn't. Deborah pauses. But it changes how a judge will see what he did. Walk me through it. What does this mean for custody? I hear her sigh, the sound of a professional recalibrating expectations. Before the video, we had a clear narrative. Documented domestic violence from his first marriage, sealed records showing assault, a pattern of controlling behavior. We could argue that he poses a risk, that the children need protection. And now? Now his counsel argues context, mutual combat, not abuse. A single incident of reactive violence during a marital crisis, followed by 10 years of therapy and no further incidents. The judge will weigh the sealed records against the video, and video is powerful. Seeing it changes things. So he wins. He doesn't win, but you don't win either. Not the way you wanted. I open my eyes, look around the kitchen, the children's artwork on the refrigerator, the family magnets, the island where I make breakfast every morning while my children play. The kitchen where Janelle was thrown against her island 10 years ago. The kitchen where she grabbed a knife. What are my options? You can proceed with the original strategy. Present the sealed records, argue the pattern of control, emphasize your documentation of emotional abuse. The video complicates the narrative, but it doesn't eliminate your case. And if I proceed? Derek's counsel will counter with the video. They'll argue that you obtained sealed records inappropriately. We can fight that, but it'll cost time and money. They'll present Janelle's statement about mutual altercation as validation of their position. And they may have other evidence we don't know about yet. Or you consider a settlement. Shared custody. Both parties agree to keep certain evidence confidential. The children maintain relationships with both parents. Shared custody. The phrase lands like a verdict. I changed the locks, Deborah. I filed for separation. I packed his clothes and sent them to his sisters. My voice rises slightly, control slipping. I told our 8-year-old stepdaughter that her father wouldn't hurt anyone anymore. I know. How do I share custody with a man I told my children to be afraid of? That's not a legal question, Mira. That's a question for you. I stand in my kitchen. The phone goes dark in my hand. The sealed folder is upstairs, on my desk. I can feel its presence like a weight I'm carrying even when I'm not holding it. 10 months of work. 10 months of fear. 10 months of telling myself I knew exactly who Derek was and what I needed to do. And now, a knife. She had a knife. I didn't know that. Deborah didn't know that when she reviewed the records. The police report mentioned mutual altercation, but not why. Janelle's statement said she provoked the encounter, but didn't specify how. We built a case on incomplete information. We assumed the gaps supported our story. We were wrong. No, not wrong, just not entirely right. Derek still hurt her. The hospital records don't lie. Whatever she did first, he responded with violence. He threw her against the island hard enough to leave contusions. But she was holding a knife. Would you have filed for divorce if you'd known about the knife? Would you have changed the locks? Packed his clothes? Built a 10-month case against a man who might have been defending himself, badly, excessively, but defending? I don't know. And that terrifies me more than anything Derek has ever done. Aching, because certainty was my armor. Knowing who he was, monster, threat, danger, that's what let me do all of this. But if the monster is also a man who was attacked first? If the threat is also someone who buried evidence to protect his attacker? Then what am I? Not a survivor. Not a strategist, just a woman who might have been wrong. And wrong doesn't come with a script for what happens next. He came at dusk. I saw his car pull into the driveway from the upstairs window, the same window where I'd watched him discover the new locks 6 days ago. But this time, he didn't try the door, didn't reach for a key that wouldn't work. He rang the bell, like a guest. Or is that mine? The children were with the nanny in the playroom, contained, safe, unaware that their father stood on the other side of the door I'd made into a fortress. I didn't have to answer. I could have let him stand there until he left. Could have called Deborah, had her handle whatever this was. Could have maintained the distance, the strategy, the war. But I opened the door. Derek stands on the porch, hands visible at his sides, deliberately non-threatening. He's lost weight. The angles of his face are sharper. The dark circles under his eyes match mine. Mira, what do you want? To talk. Without lawyers, without recordings, just talk. I don't move from the doorway. Don't step back to let him in. The threshold between us feels like a border between countries at war. You submitted a video today to the court. I know. A video showing Janelle attacking you first, with a knife. He exhales, nods. You have the sealed records, but you don't have context. His voice is quiet, careful. Janelle and I were destroying each other. That night was the worst of it. Both of us at our absolute worst. She came at me with a knife, Mira. I told her to put it down. She didn't. And I reacted, badly, excessively. I'm not defending what I did. I'm trying to explain who I was. That doesn't erase what you did. No, it doesn't. He meets my eyes. But it explains who I was. And I'm not that man anymore. How do I know that? The question lands between us. The question I've been asking for 3 years. The question that made me change the locks and pack his clothes and plan this war. Derek's answer comes slowly, each word chosen. Because I'm standing here, not forcing my way in. Because I've been in therapy for 10 years, every week without exception. Because I've never raised my voice in this house. Because when our daughter was born, I held her in my arms and I swore I'd never be the man who hurt her mother. You stood in the doorway of the nursery like you owned every exit. You made me feel small without ever touching me. His face. I watch it change, the mask of careful control cracking into something rawer, something that might be shame or grief. That wasn't intentional. Doesn't matter what you intended. It matters what I felt. We stand there, 6 feet apart. The man I married and the woman I've become, both of us changed by the same war. I don't want to go to war, Mira. For the kids' sake, for yours. Let's settle this quietly. You lost the right to ask for that when you lied about where you were going. You flew to your ex-wife, the woman you hurt, and you didn't tell me. I flew to get evidence to defend myself, because I knew you were building a case. His voice drops. I could feel it. The distance, the documentation, the way you flinched when I walked into rooms I've walked into for 5 years. If you knew I was afraid, why didn't you leave? Because I loved you, and because running would have looked like guilt. And now? Derek is silent for a moment. The rain picks up, a steady pattern now, darkening his shoulders, beating on the porch railing. Now I'm asking, what do you actually want? Victory? Safety? Or destruction? The question cuts through everything. Through the strategy and the sealed records and the 10 months of preparation. Through the anger and the fear and the certainty I built like armor. What do I want? I want my children safe. I want to know they'll never see you become the man you used to be. Then let's talk. Actually talk, not through attorneys. I look at him. Really look. At the gray in his temples that wasn't there 3 years ago. At the lines around his eyes that might be exhaustion, or might be something else. Growth, or grief, or the weight of trying to be better than you were. Would you believe him if you were me? Would you open the door a little wider, not to let him in, but to let something else out? The certainty that's been suffocating you? The story that made everything simpler? One conversation, no lawyers. And if I don't believe you, If I see him even once, I release everything. Derek nods, accepting the terms. Agreed. We stand there, the door still between us. But something has shifted. Not forgiveness, not trust, just the possibility that this might end differently than I planned. I don't let him in. Not yet. But I don't close the door either. And for the first time in 10 months, I'm not certain I know how this ends. Subscribe to see who was really the monster in this marriage, and discover what happens when both sides have bloods on their hands. We meet at a cafe neither of us has ever been to. Neutral ground. That was Derek's phrase when he texted the address. As if geography could undo what we've done to each other. As if sitting in a place with no memories could create space for something new. The cafe is in Westport, 15 minutes from our house. His house. The house I locked him out of 9 days ago. It's the kind of place where young mothers bring laptops and elderly couples share newspapers. Normal people doing normal things. We are not normal. I arrive first, order decaf. The baby doesn't need caffeine, and neither do my nerves. Choose a table near the window, but not against it. Visible, but not exposed. Derek arrives 3 minutes later. On time, of course. He looks different. Not worse. Different. The exhaustion is the same, but something else has shifted. The tightness in his shoulders is gone. The careful control of his movements has softened into something that might be resignation. Or peace. I can't tell. He sits across from me. The table between us is small, intimate, wrong for what we're here to do. Thank you for coming. I said I would. He nods, accepts the minimum. Neither of us drinking. I want you to watch the video. The full thing. His voice is quiet, deliberate. Before you decide anything. I've seen the description. Your attorney submitted it. Mutual combat. A knife. Descriptions aren't the same as seeing. He reaches into his jacket, removes his phone, sets it on the table between us. There's more. Things the summary doesn't capture. How we got there. What happened after the recording stopped. He unlocks the screen, opens a file. The video player loads, frozen on the first frame. A kitchen. Janelle's kitchen. The counter, the island, the knife block. All frozen in the blue-gray light of a decade-old night. Why do you want me to see this? Because you've been fighting a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. You've been afraid of a man who died in that kitchen. His eyes meet mine. I need you to see who I was, so you can decide if you believe who I am. I look at the phone, at the frozen frame. I could refuse, could walk out, could let my attorneys handle everything and never look at the raw evidence of the night that started all of this. But I agreed to this conversation, to actually talk. And maybe that means looking at what I've been too afraid to see. I pick up the phone. The screen comes alive. Chaos. Movement. Janelle's voice, high and fractured. If you ever talk to her again, I swear to God... Derek's voice, younger, harder. There's nothing going on. You're imagining... I'm not imagining. She threw it. I can see it now. Her arm drawing back, the glass flying. It explodes against the wall behind where Derek was standing. Then she moves. Toward the counter. Toward the knife block. Janelle, put it down. Put the knife down. His voice isn't angry anymore. It's afraid. Why should I believe anything you... And then she lunges. Not stabbing, reaching, grabbing at him with the blade in her hand. I can't see clearly, the phone is too far from the action, but I can hear everything. Her screaming, his voice trying to stop something, the sound of impact, body against surface. Then silence. The screen goes dark. I set the phone down. My hand is shaking. I press it flat against the table to stop it. You both were broken. Yes. That doesn't make what you did to her okay. No. Derek's voice is steady, resigned. But it means the story you've been telling yourself, the monster waiting to wake up, isn't the whole truth either. Maybe. I meet his eyes. Or maybe you've just gotten better at hiding. I slide the phone back across the table, stand. I'll think about what you said, but I'm not dropping the case. I'm pausing. Derek nods, accepts the minimum again. That's all I'm asking. Time to show you who I am now. You showed me who you were, in that video, in our nursery, in the way you filled doorways. I know. He doesn't look away, and I'm showing you who I'm trying to be, if you'll let me. I leave the cafe. The coffee sits untouched. The conversation sits unfinished. He showed me everything, the knife, the fear, the violence that was mutual before it was his, and I don't know what to do with it. Would you believe him? Would you look at the worst moment of someone's life and see past it to who they've become? Or would you remember the doorway, the silence, the way your daughter already knows what fear tastes like? I don't know the answer. That's the problem. I go to Victor's apartment expecting support. I find him packing. The apartment looks different in afternoon light, less intimate, more transactional. The Basquiat print I thought was romantic now looks like an investment. The minimalist furniture feels cold, or maybe I'm just seeing clearly for the first time. Victor is in the bedroom, suit bag open on the bed, shirts folded with hotel precision. Where are you going? He doesn't startle, doesn't stop packing. Boston, investor meeting, the final roadshow before pricing. The IPO is in 5 days. And you're leaving? He zips the suit bag, slowly, deliberately. Buying time or savoring distance, I can't tell. I'm saving it. He finally looks at me. Mira, I can't sign your affidavit, and I can't testify against Derek. The words land. I expected them, have been expecting them since he stopped answering calls, but expecting a blow doesn't make it hurt less. You said you loved me. I do. But, Supak, if I burn this company, 200 jobs, 15 years of my life, I lose myself. He crosses toward me, stops 3 feet away, the same distance as before. You're asking me to destroy something I built to save something we started 6 months ago. 6 months. Is that what we are? A timeline? We're a choice, Mira. And you made yours when you started this war while carrying his child. So that's it. Money wins. We all made choices. His voice is quiet, almost gentle, which makes it worse. I'm making mine. I slap him. Hard. Harder than I meant to. The sound cracks through the apartment like something breaking. He doesn't move, doesn't touch his face, just stands there, absorbing it. You were supposed to be different. Different from who? From Derek? He finally touches his cheek. I am different. I'm not controlling you. I'm not scaring you. I'm just... Not sacrificing everything I have for you either. Take the settlement. Shared custody. Walk away with your equity. We can, eventually. No. The word comes out cold, final. If you choose money over me now, you don't get to choose me later. He nods, accepts the verdict. For what it's worth, he starts. Don't. I leave. I don't look back. 12 floors down. Lobby. Street. February air sharp against my face. Both of them. Derek chose control, then chose therapy, then chose whatever he's choosing now. Victor chose me, then chose hesitation, then chose $42 million. And I'm left standing on a Soho sidewalk, 7 months pregnant, realizing I've been fighting a war with allies who were never really there. Would you stay angry? Would you let the betrayal fuel you? Or would you feel what I feel now? Not rage, but something flatter, colder. The recognition that everyone, in the end, protects themselves first. My hand finds my belly. The baby kicks. The only one who can't leave. I start walking. Don't know where, just away. The second phone is in my pocket. Victor's name still the only contact. I won't call it again. The custody evaluator's office is beige. Beige walls, beige carpet, beige chairs in a beige waiting room, as if color itself might bias the outcomes. I sit on one side of the room. Derek sits on the other. We haven't spoken since the cafe, haven't looked at each other since I walked in. Amara is behind the closed door, has been for 47 minutes. I can sit fragments of her voice through the door. Can't make out words, just the tone. High, confused, the voice of a child trying to give the right answers when she doesn't know what right means anymore. I did this. I told myself I was protecting her, protecting all of them. But I asked Amara to confirm things she didn't witness. I framed questions to get answers I needed. Did Daddy ever scare you? Did you hear him yell at your mom? At me? Do you feel safer when he's not here? Leading questions. Attorney language dressed as maternal concern. Derek did it too. I know he did. His attorney would have coached him to coach her. Gently, carefully, always deniably. You know Daddy loves you, right? Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. That doesn't mean anyone's bad. Mommy seems upset. Do you know why she's upset? Two parents, two narratives, one 8-year-old caught in the crossfire. The evaluator emerges, Dr. Patricia Hollis, 50-something, gray-streaked hair, reading glasses she doesn't need. The face of someone who's seen 100 broken families and has stopped expecting them to heal. Mr. Duckstein? Mrs. Duckstein? We stand. Don't move closer. Don't look at each other. Amara says she's been told different things by each of you. She doesn't know what's true anymore. Dr. Hollis looks at us both, equally, without mercy. That's a problem. I never told her anything that wasn't, I start. You asked her to confirm things she didn't witness. You framed questions to get answers you wanted, whether you intended to or not. Derek speaks, quietly, for the first time since we arrived. I did the same. I shouldn't have. The admission surprises me. I look at him, actually look, and I see what I should have seen before. He's not performing, not managing. He's genuinely ashamed. Dr. Hollis nods, accepts the admission without praise or condemnation. This child is the only one who truly loses here. Whatever happened between you, whatever's happening now, Amara absorbs it. She's been caught between two narratives for months, maybe longer. What do we do? You get your house in order, both of you. She looks at the closed door where Amara still waits. Because, right? Now, you're teaching her that love is a battleground, that parents use children as weapons, that truth is whatever serves the closest adult. She leaves us there, standing in the beige waiting room, the door closed between us and the child we've both damaged. Both of us leaving separately the mechanics of continued war. I reach the parking lot first, stand by my car, don't get in. Derek emerges a minute later, sees me, stops. The distance between us is 30 feet, the width of the parking lot, the width of everything we've done. Neither speaks, but the look is enough. What have we done? Would you forgive yourself? Would you blame the other parent? Or would you stand in a parking lot at 4 p.m. and realize that the war you started to protect your children has become the thing that's harming them? I get in my car, close the door, sit there. Amara's voice from this morning echoes, "Is it because of what he did to my mom?" She wasn't just remembering Janelle. She was preparing for me. I started this war to protect my children, and I've made my stepdaughter a casualty. The engine starts, the car moves, but something has broken that I don't know how to fix. The article appears at 7:32 a.m. I'm in the kitchen, making breakfast I won't eat. The children are still asleep, a small mercy in a house that feels like a crime scene. My phone lights up. Deborah's name, 3 texts in rapid succession. Call me, now. Don't read the article until we talk. Of course, I read the article. Connecticut Legal Observer, a minor publication, the kind that covers family court for attorneys and gossip-hungry locals. The kind that shouldn't matter. The headline: Ex-wife breaks silence on tech founder's domestic violence case. Below it, Janelle's photograph. Recent. She looks different than I imagined. Softer, warmer. Auburn hair I didn't expect. Gray-blue eyes that remind me, horribly, of Amara. And her words. I read them once, then again, then a third time as if repetition might change them. I was also violent that night. I don't say this to excuse what Derek did. He was stronger, and his reaction was worse. But to tell the truth, we were both broken people, both capable of hurting each other. He did the work, 10 years of therapy, no incidents since. I've watched from a distance, through Amara, through mutual friends. He's not the same man. I'm not giving this interview to defend him. I'm giving it because I'm tired of being a ghost in someone else's narrative. That night was complicated. The truth is complicated. And I think his current wife deserves to know the full story before she makes decisions that will affect their children forever. She spoke. The woman I was defending. The victim I never met but claimed as my justification. She spoke. And she said what I didn't want to hear. I call Deborah. Does this destroy my case? It reframes it. Deborah's voice is careful, attorney measured. You're no longer the woman protecting children from a monster. You're the woman fighting a man who made mistakes a decade ago and has spent 10 years in recovery. And if I pursue anyway? Then you look like you're after blood, not safety. And the judge will notice. She said I deserve to know the full story. She called me his current wife. My voice sounds strange, flat. Like I'm just the next one. The next woman he'll hurt and then heal from.
That's exactly what she said. That I'm making decisions that will affect their children, not mine, theirs. As if Amara is the only one who matters. What are my options? You can proceed. Present the sealed records, argue the pattern of control, emphasize your documentation. But Derek's counsel will cite Janelle's statement. They'll argue you're pursuing a vendetta against a reformed man. They'll position you as the aggressor, the woman who weaponized a decade-old incident to win custody. And if I don't proceed? Then we negotiate. Settlement, shared custody, protected assets. And you live with whatever peace that buys. I stand in my kitchen. The kitchen where Amara asked about her father. The kitchen where I make pancakes for children who don't know their family is collapsing. The sealed folder is upstairs, on my desk, where it's been for 10 months. I spent 10 months sharpening that weapon, documenting, planning, waiting for the moment to strike. And now the woman I was supposed to be avenging has spoken, and she's taken my sword away. Would you keep fighting? Would you pursue a case the victim herself has complicated? Would you stand in front of a judge and argue that a woman's own truth is less valid than your interpretation of her pain? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. The children will wake soon. They'll want breakfast. They'll ask questions I can't answer. And I'll stand here, in this kitchen, trying to figure out how to be a mother when I no longer know if I'm the hero or the villain of this story.
He comes to the house. Not the apartment, not neutral ground. He comes to the Duckstein home, the fortress I built against Derek, and rings the doorbell like a salesman. It's been 3 days since Soho. 3 days since I slapped him. 3 days since I walked away believing I'd never see him again. Victor looks worse than I've ever seen him. Suit rumpled, actually rumpled, not artfully disheveled. Dark circles under his eyes. The charming veneer stripped away. What are you doing here? I'm not here for us. He says it immediately, cutting off whatever hope I didn't know I still had. I'm here because in 4 days, that company goes public. And if you release those records, it doesn't. He reaches into his briefcase, removes a folder, not my sealed folder, a new one. Legal paper, corporate formatting. Here's what I'm proposing. Through the company, not personally. I take it, read the header. Settlement proposal. Duckstein dissolution, prepared by Meridian FinTech Legal Counsel. You had your lawyers draft a settlement. The company's lawyers. This isn't about you and me. It's about protecting the IPO and, incidentally, protecting the children's trusts. I flip through the pages, read the terms. Shared custody, neither parent with sole control. Mira retains primary residence for 3 years. Stability for the children. Mira's equity stake, $4.2 million, vests immediately upon signing. Children's trusts restructured. Neither parent controls disbursement. Independent trustee appointed. Non-disclosure on both sides. No public statements regarding the dissolution or prior incidents. You put a price on everything. I put a structure on everything. There's a difference. Victor's voice is tired. No court battle, no public destruction. The children stay protected. Everyone walks away with something. And you get your IPO. And the kids get their college funds. And Derek gets to be their father. And you get to be done with him. Everyone wins something. No one wins everything. What about you and me? Victor looks at me. For the first time since he arrived, something human flickers across his face. Something that might be regret. There is no you and me. There's what we did. And there's what happens next. This is what happens next. I look at the document. $4 million. Shared custody. A house I'll eventually have to leave. Children who will split their time between parents who destroyed each other. This isn't justice. No, it's math. Victor picks up his briefcase, moves toward the door. Justice doesn't exist in divorce court, only outcomes. This is the best outcome available. For who? For the children? For the company? For everyone who didn't choose to be part of this war. He opens the door, pauses at the threshold. For what it's worth, I did love you. That was real. Not real enough. No. He meets my eyes. Not real enough. I stand in the foyer of my beautiful house, holding a document that reduces my marriage, my affair, my entire war to numbers on paper. Would you sign? Would you take the money, the house, the structured settlement, and walk away from everything you thought you were fighting for? Or would you keep fighting, knowing the only victory left is mutual destruction? The document sits in my hands. $4 million. 3 years in this house. Shared custody. Not love, not justice, not victory, just math. I set it on the table. Don't sign it. Don't reject it. Let it sit there, like everything else, waiting for me to decide what kind of woman I want to be. The conference room at Chen and Associates. 4 people, 1 table. Everything on the line. Deborah sits beside me. Marcus Webb sits beside Derek. We face each other across polished mahogany, the battlefield for people who can afford to have their wars managed by professionals. Thank you all for coming. Deborah opens. The formality of destruction. We're here to discuss settlement options before this proceeds to court. Both parties have submitted evidence. Both parties have concerns. Cut the preamble. Derek's voice. Steady, controlled. The CEO voice I used to admire. We know why we're here. He looks at me. For the first time since the cafe, we're in the same room with nothing between us but air and attorneys. Then let's be direct. Here's what I have. I slide my folder across the table. The sealed records, the documentation, the 10 months of preparation. Sealed DV records from your first marriage. Hospital documentation of injuries you inflicted. Police report confirming assault. Testimony from my documentation of controlling behavior throughout our marriage. Statements I've prepared regarding your pattern of Victor's knowledge of my behavior. Derek interrupts, calm, almost bored, even though he won't sign the affidavit. How do I know you've been sleeping with my co-founder? The room freezes. Deborah's face. Professional mask, but I see the flicker of surprise she didn't expect. Marcus Webb's face? Nothing. He already knew. Derek's face. Not triumphant, not angry, just tired. The face of a man who's been carrying knowledge he didn't want. I didn't want to use it. His voice is quiet, almost gentle. But if you're going to destroy my reputation, I'll destroy yours. How long have you known? 3 months. The hotel receipts came up when I was reviewing our joint accounts for the IPO paperwork. You weren't as careful as you thought. 3 months. He knew when I was documenting his doorway posture, when I was photographing his belongings, when I was building my case, brick by brick, certain I was the only one preparing for war. He knew. And you said nothing. Because I thought you'd stop. I thought maybe we could fix it. His voice cracks, barely but audibly. I thought if I didn't name it, it might disappear. The particular rhythm of time running out. So here's where we are. Derek leans forward, not threatening, exhausted. A man at the end of something. You release the sealed records. I release proof of your affair with my best friend and business partner. The IPO collapses. The children's trusts are frozen pending litigation. The press covers every detail. The abuse, the affair, the money. Everyone sees everything. Everyone loses everything. Or we sign the settlement Victor brought. Shared custody, protected assets, cold peace. He looks at me, really looks. The war ends, not with victory, with exhaustion. I look at the sealed folder in front of me. 10 months, the documentation, the planning, the certainty that I was protecting my children from a monster. And across the table, a man who knew I was cheating on him for 3 months and said nothing, who hoped it would stop, who was trying to save something I was already destroying. I wanted to protect my children. So did I. Derek's voice is soft. We both failed. Mine, his, the attorneys waiting. You're not innocent. No, I'm not. He doesn't look away. I stood in doorways. I controlled money. I made you feel small in ways I didn't understand until you named them. I'm guilty of things that don't show up in police reports. Things therapy can't fully cure. Things I'm still learning to recognize in myself. But I didn't hurt you the way you think I did. And you hurt me in ways you don't want to acknowledge. The clock ticks. The attorneys wait. And I realize, finally, what I should have known from the beginning. There are no heroes in this room, only wounded people trying to survive each other. What happens if neither of us releases anything? Derek exhales. Something leaves him. Tension, maybe. Or hope. Then we sign the settlement. We share custody. We co-parent through scheduling apps and polite handoffs. And we live with what we've done. I look at my wedding ring. Still on my finger. Still the symbol of something I was supposed to believe in. He wears his too. I hadn't noticed until now. We both still wear the rings. I'll sign. The words come out flat. Not surrender, not victory, just the end. I'll sign too. Deborah and Marcus exchange glances, begin arranging papers. And across the table, Derek and I sit in silence. Two people who loved each other once, who destroyed each other slowly, who are now agreeing to stop. Not peace, just the absence of war. The documents are already waiting when we arrive. Deborah has arranged them in neat stacks. 3 copies of everything. Settlement agreement, custody schedule, asset division, non-disclosure. The vocabulary of dissolution, printed in 12-point Times New Roman. Derek sits across from me. Marcus Webb beside him. Deborah beside me. The conference room is the same one where we declared mutual destruction 3 days ago. Same mahogany table, same overhead lights, same clock ticking on the wall. Different silence. No one speaks. The attorneys murmur their legal choreography, sign here, initial there, date this page, but Derek and I exist in a pocket of quiet, looking at the documents, not at each other. My hand moves through the pages. I sign where Deborah points. My signature, Mira Duckstein, Mira Duckstein, Mira Duckstein, over and over, like writing my own name on a tombstone. I reach the last page, the one that dissolves the marriage. My pen hovers. I think about the nursery, the half-painted wall, the night I decided to fight. The 10 months of preparation, documentation, the certainty that I was doing what had to be done. And I think about the kitchen, Amara's gray-blue eyes, the question I couldn't answer. Is it because of what he did to my mom? I sign. The attorneys collect my copies, turn to Derek. He moves through his pages methodically.
The CEO's signature, efficient, practiced. But when he reaches the last page, he pauses too. I never wanted this. His voice is barely audible, not for the room, for me. Neither did I. But here we are. He signs, sets down the pen. The attorneys collect the documents. It's done. 5 years of marriage, 3 years of fear, 10 months of war. Reduced to paper, signed and notarized, ready for filing. Deborah and Marcus shake hands, the ritual of professionalism completing what intimacy destroyed. I stand, walk toward the door. I should keep walking, should leave this room and never look back, should take my victory, such as it is, and close this chapter. But I stop. For what it's worth? Derek looks up. His face is tired, not angry, not defeated, just empty. I believe you've changed. I just couldn't take the risk. I know. He holds my gaze. That's what makes it worse. I don't respond. There's nothing to say. I leave the conference room. The hallway is bright. The elevator is waiting. The lobby is empty. Behind me, through the closing door, I glimpse Derek still seated at the table, staring at the empty chair where I was. The war is over. We both survived. And somehow, that doesn't feel like winning. If you could sign away 5 years of your life, would you do it with steady hands? Would you feel the weight of what you're ending, or would you just want it done? My hands were steady. I don't know what that says about me. Derek's new apartment is 5 minutes from his children, a world away from his life. I wasn't there, but I can imagine it. The building is new, modern, the kind of development that advertises luxury finishes and means stainless steel appliances and gray laminate floors. Anonymous, interchangeable, the architecture of transience. He carries boxes from his car, 3 trips, his whole existence in cardboard. The apartment is 1 bedroom, kitchen, living area, a bathroom with a shower he hasn't used yet. The bare minimum for a man who used to own 7 bedrooms. He opens the first box. Photographs. The children. Amara on her first day of kindergarten. Theo covered in birthday cake. Lily taking her first steps, his hands just visible at the frame's edge, steadying her. He places 1 photo on the mantel, the only flat surface with nothing on it. Amara, Theo, Lily, all 3 together, laughing at something outside the frame. Happy. His phone buzzes. Calendar reminder, custody pickup, 6 p.m., Duckstein residence. He stares at the address, the house he built, the life he made, the family he lost. Now a destination, a GPS coordinate, a place he's scheduled to visit. He sits on the couch, bare. No pillows, no blankets. The furniture of a man who hasn't learned how to be alone yet. The apartment echoes. I can imagine his thoughts, the ones he'd never say aloud. 10 years. 10 years of therapy. 10 years of learning to breathe instead of react. 10 years of proving I'd changed. And in the end, proof wasn't enough. She needed to feel safe. I couldn't give her that. The man I used to be, the man in that kitchen, he made that impossible. Some damage can't be undone, only managed. He reaches into the box, pulls out another photograph. His wedding day. Him and Mira, smiling at the camera, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. The beginning of something that was supposed to last.
He looks at it for a long time. He doesn't put it on the mantel. He puts it in a drawer, face down. The same gesture I used with his wedding photo. The same gesture Mira used with my ring. A family pattern, turning away from what we can't face. If you'd spent 10 years trying to become someone new, and the person you loved still couldn't see past who you were, would you blame them? Or would you understand that some fears aren't about you at all? Derek sits in his empty apartment, 5 minutes from his children, a world away from his life, and learns what reformation costs when it isn't enough. The IPO closes on a Tuesday. I watch it happen on my phone, the children asleep in the next room, the house quiet around me, November dark pressing against the windows. NASDAQ footage. Meridian FinTech's ticker scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Numbers climbing. The kind of numbers that change lives, destroy marriages, justify betrayals. Victor is there, center frame. The opening bell ceremony. Camera flashes catching his face as he shakes hands with people I don't recognize. He's smiling. The professional smile. The one I learned to see through 6 months ago. Charming, composed, victorious. But his eyes scan the crowd, looking for someone who isn't there. My screen lights up. Notification banner. Mira Duckstein, shares vested. Value, $4,012,847. I stare at the number. $4 million. The price of my marriage, my affair, my war, my silence. $4 million for signing a non-disclosure, for agreeing not to destroy the company that my husband, ex-husband, my lover, ex-lover, built from nothing. I close the app, set the phone face down on the nightstand. I don't feel richer. I don't feel victorious. I don't feel anything at all. The house is worth $3 million. I have 3 years before I have to leave. The children's trusts are protected. My equity stake makes me a millionaire. By every measure that matters on paper, I won. So why does $4 million feel like nothing? Later, I don't know how much later, my phone lights up again. Victor's name. I pick up the phone. The message preview shows typing indicators. 3 dots. He's writing something. The dots disappear. Nothing comes through. 3 dots again. He's writing. Disappear. I wait. 10 minutes. 20. He never sends it. Whatever he wanted to say, apology, justification, the final word he couldn't find in his apartment, he decided against it. Deleted it. Moved on. I set the phone down, face down, the gesture I've learned from everyone I've loved. $42 million. That's what Victor made today. And the text he couldn't send is worth more than all of it. If someone chose money over you, and then couldn't find the words to explain why, would you want to know what they almost said? Or is the silence enough answer? The silence is enough. It always was. Kitchen warmth. The sounds of holiday preparation. 3 weeks later, Thanksgiving. The Duckstein home is warm for the first time in months. I've decorated, tastefully, expensively, the way the magazine spreads suggest. Candles on the mantel, dried flowers in the dining room, a turkey in the oven that I started at 5 a.m. because I wanted something to do besides think. The table is set for 4. 3 small chairs, 1 adult. Theo is in the living room, explaining to his monster trucks that it's a holiday and they have to be thankful. Lily is helping me in the kitchen, which means she's eating cranberries out of the bag and getting sauce on her dress. Amara sits at the table, quiet. watching. She's been quiet since the evaluation, since the parking lot, since she learned that both her parents used her, meaning well, meaning protection, meaning something that felt like love but landed like weaponry. 8 years old, carrying what 8-year-olds shouldn't have to carry. I bring the turkey to the table, golden, perfect, a magazine photograph of what holidays are supposed to look like. All right, everyone, dinner's ready. Theo abandons his trucks. Lily climbs into her chair, cranberry-stained and delighted. Amara takes her place. We eat. Is Daddy coming for pie? Theo's question. Innocent. The kind of question that lands like a small bomb in the silence. Daddy will pick you up after dinner. You'll have pie with him tomorrow. Lily claps. 2 Thanksgivings! That's right, sweetheart. 2 Thanksgivings. I watch them eat. These children I fought for, bled for, lied for, destroyed a marriage for. They're happy, unaware, safe. That's the victory. That's what I wanted. So why does my throat close around every bite? We finish dinner. I clear the plates. The children scatter. Theo back to trucks, Lily to her dolls, Amara to the window where she watches the driveway. 6 p.m. My heart does something it shouldn't. A flutter, a flinch. The body remembering fear even when the mind has moved past it. I open the door. Derek stands on the porch, dressed nicely, buttoned down, the good jeans, like he's presenting himself for inspection. In his hands, a pie. Pumpkin. Homemade from the look of it. For tomorrow. Thought they'd want something from both houses. Thank you. Theo and Lily appearing behind me. Daddy! They rush past me, crash into him. The chaos of reunion, as if he's been gone for months instead of 3 days. He catches them. Holds them. His face, for a moment, softens into something I remember from before. Before the doorways, before the silence, before the fear. Something real. Amara appears beside me. Doesn't run to him, just stands there, watching her siblings, processing whatever 8-year-olds process when their world has been divided and they're the only ones who understand. Happy Thanksgiving, Mira. Her voice is quiet, not cold, just careful. The voice of a child who's learned that words are weapons. You too, sweetheart. Take care of them. She nods, takes her siblings' hands, guides them toward Derek's car with a competence that breaks something in me. The children pile into the back seat. Derek helps Lily with her car seat. Theo is already talking about the trucks he'll show his dad. Derek pauses at the driveway, looks back. I'm standing in the doorway, backlit by the warm kitchen light, the house he built behind me, the life he lost. He raises a hand, not a wave, an acknowledgement. I nod. He drives away. The handoff is peaceful, civilized, the kind of custody exchange that other families aspire to. That's the victory. I stand in the doorway for a long time, watching the taillights disappear, watching the empty driveway, watching the first quiet Thanksgiving of the rest of my life. If you could have peace instead of victory, cold peace, scheduled peace, peace that arrives by calendar notification, would you take it? I took it. I'm still not sure if I chose right. They're gone. The house echoes. That particular silence of rooms that were full and suddenly aren't. The absence of children's voices, of chaos, of the life I fought so hard to keep. I return to the dining room. The table is still set. 3 small chairs empty now. 1 plate half-eaten. Mine. I never finished. I sit. Around me, the remnants of Thanksgiving. Cranberry sauce hardening in its dish. Gravy cooling. The turkey carcass I'll carve for sandwiches no one will eat. The magazine-perfect holiday. The picture of what success looks like. I pick up my phone, check the messages. Nothing from Victor. The conversation ended 3 weeks ago. My last text saying, "I understand." His reply? Silence. Nothing from Derek beyond logistics, calendar confirmations, pickup times, the vocabulary of co-parenting. I scroll past Victor's name. The messages stop in November. Before the IPO, before the settlement, before he chose $42 million over me. I set the phone face down. The same gesture, always the same gesture. Derek with Janelle's photo, me with Derek's wedding photo. Both of us now with the phones that connect us to people who left. A family pattern. I built a case to destroy a man who terrified me. And in the end, he wasn't a monster. Just broken. Like me. Like Victor. Like all of us. I stand. Begin clearing the table. The children's drawings are still on the refrigerator. Family, in magnetic letters. A house with a triangle roof. Stick figures holding hands, 1 tall, 1 medium, 3 small. The family in those drawings doesn't exist anymore. Maybe never did. Maybe it was always just stick figures. Shapes I arranged to look like something I wanted to believe. I carry the dishes to the sink, turn on the water, begin washing. I won. Custody, equity, the house. My children safe under my roof. So why does winning feel like this? My hand finds my belly. The baby kicks, strong now, 8 months along. Soon, your family is complicated, little one. I pause, look down at the curve of my belly. The child who will inherit all of this. The divided custody, the 2 Thanksgivings, the parents who loved each other once and destroyed each other slowly. But you're wanted. I promise you that. The water runs. The silence settles. Through the window, above the sink, I can see the empty driveway. The reflection of the kitchen behind me, empty chairs, empty table, empty house. 1 hand on the dish, 1 hand drifting to my belly. Wanted. The house settles around me. November dark pressing at the windows. The warmth of the kitchen the only light in a house too big for 1 person. I won. And I'm still trying to figure out what that means. I used to watch him leave for work from this window, counting the seconds until the garage door closed, counting the hours until he came home, counting the years I told myself I was happy. I stopped counting the day I found out where he really flew. And now I count other things. Custody days, calendar blocks, the weeks until this baby arrives in a world I've already divided. My mother stayed. 18 years she stayed. Absorbed his anger so we wouldn't have to. Told herself it was for the children. That we needed a father more than we needed peace. I swore I'd never be her. So I didn't stay. I fought. I documented. I changed the locks and packed his clothes and built a case designed to destroy him. And I won. I got the house, the children, the safety I promised myself before I even knew what safety cost. But here's the thing about winning. You spend so long fighting you forget what you were fighting for. I wanted my children protected. They are. Derek will never become the man he used to be, not around them. Not with the custody agreement. Not with the co-parenting app pinging reminders like a parole officer. I wanted to feel safe. I do. Mostly. Except for the nights when I hear a sound downstairs and remember I'm the only adult in this house. I wanted Victor. But Victor wanted his money more than he wanted me. And maybe I wanted his betrayal to justify mine. We were both right. We were both guilty. I leave the window, walk down the hall. The nursery door is open. The room I was painting the night I decided to prepare for war. It's finished now. Sage green walls, white crib, silver stars turning slowly above. I lower myself into the rocking chair, feel the baby shift inside me. The first thing you'll learn, little one, is that love is complicated. That your parents made choices, all of us, that we can't unmake. Your father was violent once, a long time ago. He's worked very hard not to be. Your mother was afraid, maybe. Too afraid. Maybe not afraid enough. I still don't know. I rest my hands on my belly. The baby kicks, strong, ready. But here's what I do know. You are wanted, fiercely, by all of us, even the ones who couldn't stay. The mobile turns. The stars catch moonlight. The shadows shift on sage green walls. I sit in the quiet, learning what peace tastes like when it's built on exhaustion instead of love. Some victories don't feel like winning. Some safety doesn't feel like home. Some families are complicated in ways that can't be uncomplicated. But you, little one, you are wanted. That's enough. It has to be. This is American Billionaire Tales, where fortune meets fate. I am Michael, and the wars we fight for love still leave us standing alone. Next time, a woman lights candles at her family's altar and discovers the man she loves has spent 3 years mocking everything she believes.